Chosen one, the question rippling through town, how did this happen and why did you do it? Has a community angry and demanding truth. The instigator knows the facts. They witnessed everything and chose distortion. Truth has gravity. It pulls evidence forward, aligns witnesses, and collapses theater. Watch carefully. Clarity is coming. Accountability follows, and your steadiness becomes undeniable now. Let me tell you about this person from your past, the one spreading these lies. Pure anger drives everything right now. Rage that's been building since the moment you chose yourself over submission. And it's not just any anger. This is the anger of someone who wanted to be royalty but never earned the crown. They always desired to be the supreme authority, the high priest, the one everyone looks up to. But they never achieved that position, never earned it, and deep down they know it. So they constantly compare themselves to you. They watch what you have, what you're building, what you're becoming, and it's eating away at their sanity. When things ended between you, whether romance or friendship or work or family connection, they placed all the blame on you. They told people you took their foundations away, made their safety disappear, maybe even created homelessness or financial struggle for them. They painted you as the villain who destroyed their stability and left massive scars, and people believed it. Why? Because they have expertise in working a crowd. They know how to make vulnerability look authentic, how to make wounds seem fresh, how to position themselves as someone desperately in need of protection. It's the same energy as when Gaston whipped the village into a frenzy. Everyone grabbed pitchforks because the manipulator knew exactly which emotional buttons to push. They're actively hiding the truth about what really went down. This person doesn't want the truth to come out because exposure would reveal their real character underneath. Change was necessary, but they demanded sameness even when evolution was required. They're cutting out parts of what was actually said. They're editing the real story. They're removing personal accountability from every retelling. The community is angry because they genuinely want truth, but they're not receiving truth. They're consuming a carefully crafted narrative designed to make you look like a monster, and this person look like an innocent victim of your cruelty. More exists beneath the surface. Much more. This person has gone from playing small to positioning themselves as someone spiritually elevated. Their goal is for people to see wisdom, intuition, connection, someone who's done the work and reached enlightenment. But you know the real person behind the mask. You've seen what others haven't, and that's why they're so desperate to destroy you, because you're the one person who can expose what they're hiding. This person might have children in their life, or responsibilities they're no longer fulfilling. There's energy here of someone who's absent. Either their physical presence is missing from important lives, or their emotional connection has completely checked out. Or maybe custody was taken from them. Maybe the other parent has sole custody now because of behaviors this person won't take accountability for. They're not providing. They're not stable. The person being portrayed to this community isn't the person who actually shows up in real life. And you know it because you observed it firsthand. When you were connected to them, they painted a completely false picture of who you were. They placed a demonic mask on you, instead of holding up any mirror to their own darkness. And I'm not using that phrase lightly. Something genuinely dark exists in the energy they carry. Something that attaches to them and influences everyone in their proximity. You might not have seen the warning signs at first. Red flags looked like regular flags when you were wearing rose-colored glasses. The relationship seemed okay. You didn't realize you were dealing with someone who operates more like an entity of negativity than a person seeking genuine connection. But now you can look back and see clearly. You recognize that this person was an abuser, a liar, a cheater, maybe even a thief. Whatever their poison was, you see it clearly now. But other people don't see it, because they've mastered manipulation. They have perfect knowledge about how to play the role of the wounded soul who just needs someone to rescue them. Their behavior with this community is exactly the same as their behavior with you. The same patterns, the same manipulation, the same energy of constant demands and tantrums, like a spoiled child throwing fits because immediate gratification isn't being delivered fast enough. They've spun such an intricate web of lies that you're not just a villain in the story they're telling. You're an arch nemesis, a monster that needs to be destroyed. And they've convinced a group of people to pick up pitchforks and come after you. Let's talk about what's really driving this rage. Money. Financial stress exists in their life. Debt is crushing them. Things are owed. Things were promised that can't be delivered. And somehow, in this twisted narrative, they're placing all the blame on you for their financial destruction. Did you steal from them? That's the question these elders want to ask you. That's the accusation being whispered behind closed doors, that somehow you took what wasn't yours and left devastation behind. But here's the real story they're not telling. This person is terrible with money, always has been. They make bad decisions repeatedly. They spend recklessly and constantly. They promise things they can't deliver. They owe people, and instead of taking responsibility for their own financial chaos, they're pointing fingers at you and claiming, "This was done to me." The community that's defending them, they're likely providing financial support. They're giving money. They're paying bills. They're offering housing. All of this is happening because they believe this person is struggling due to what you allegedly did. They have no idea that financial irresponsibility has always been present, that the current situation is just natural consequences of poor choices finally catching up. These elders or older people in this circle don't like confrontation. They run when conflict appears. Maybe they grew up in households where they learned passivity, where avoiding waves meant survival, where just giving the angry person what they demanded was how peace got maintained. So when this person rages, they comply. When demands get made, they provide. When manipulation happens, they automatically believe, and this person knows it. They have perfect knowledge about how to work this dynamic, how to keep people afraid of their anger, how to maintain control through emotional terrorism. If this message activated your knowing, hype this video to connect with more chosen ones on this journey. They're telling everyone that they're seeking help, that therapy is happening, that work is being done on personal growth, but it's all performance, all smoke and mirrors. The actual work isn't happening. Think about someone who claims they're attending college, but actually spends every day playing hooky. That's this person with their so-called healing journey. They show up just enough to maintain the illusion. They say the right things in front of the right people. But real change, real accountability, real transformation, none of it's happening. Because real healing would require them to tell the truth, and truth destroys their victim narrative. Truth reveals that the problem existed inside them all along, that they were aggressive, that they started arguments, that they threw out accusations without basis, that they created confusion on purpose, and then added more confusion on top to keep people disoriented and compliant. They're best at hiding. They hide their real nature behind therapy speak and spiritual language, and tears that turn on and off like a faucet. And because nobody is actually monitoring their progress, because nobody is holding them accountable through this supposed healing process, everyone just assumes growth is happening. Look how brave they are for getting help. Look how strong they are for facing their pain. Look how much they're growing. But you know better. You know this person. You know that unless real accountability exists, unless real consequences occur, unless real change shows up in their behavior, it's all just another manipulation tactic. Now let's talk about you. Because while they've been gathering mobs and playing victim, you've been doing something they can't tolerate. You've been growing. You've been evolving. The powerful version of yourself that was always meant to exist has been emerging. You're not the person you were during that connection, That version was small, isolated, made to feel like you needed to dim your light so their tiny flame could shine brighter. They gave you instructions to be quiet. Don't be seen. Don't shine too much. Why are you getting attention? Why are you succeeding? That's supposed to belong to me. But something shifted inside you. Maybe you had a spiritual awakening. Maybe a dark night of the soul cracked everything open. Whatever it was, you started remembering who you really are. You started listening to your intuition, your inner guidance, the divine voice that instructed you to walk away from anything not aligned with your highest good. And you did it. You walked away. You set boundaries. You chose yourself. You stopped playing small. You stopped apologizing for existing. You stopped dimming your light. And they watched it all happen. They witnessed your transformation. They observed the shift from someone they could control into someone untouchable, someone aligned, someone protected, someone rising, and it destroyed something inside them, because your ascension proves everything they said about you was lies. If you were really the villain they claim, you'd be miserable right now, you'd be visibly broken, you'd be obviously struggling, but none of that exists. You're thriving, and that's the evidence that breaks their entire narrative. These people supporting your enemy, let me tell you who they really are. They're a group of elders or older people who've been conditioned to believe that crying equals truth-telling, that wounded equals innocent, that victim status equals deserving protection at all costs. They don't like this person's anger. They actually fear it. But they experienced environments growing up where avoiding conflict meant survival, where questioning authority meant danger, where keeping peace mattered more than seeking truth. So when this person rages, they appease. When demands get made, they comply. When stories get spun, they believe without question, because in their world, asking for receipts means you don't care. Demanding proof means you're disloyal. Questioning the narrative means you're almost as bad as the villain. It's a closed system, a cult of personality built around someone who's weaponized their own supposed fragility. And these people have no idea they're being used as soldiers in someone else's war against reality. But something else exists about this community. They're not just randomly angry. They've been fed very specific stories, very detailed accusations. This person has taken moments from your shared history and twisted them into weapons. They've reframed your strengths as cruelty. They've called your boundaries abandonment. They've labeled your growth as betrayal. Every private conversation you had has been made public with new context. Every disagreement you had has been retold as abuse. Every time you stood up for yourself has been repackaged as an attack. And this community is consuming it because they don't have the full picture. They only have the version that makes you look monstrous. Let me tell you the specific questions this community has been asking about you, the accusations they're whispering, the judgments they're making, because you need to understand the full scope of what you're dealing with. Why did you leave so suddenly? Why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you give more chances? Why didn't you stay and work through the problems? In their minds, real love stays, real commitment fights, real loyalty doesn't quit. So the fact that you walked away makes you suspicious to them, makes you seem cold, makes you look like the problem. But what they don't know is how long you actually stayed, how many chances you actually gave, how hard you actually tried. They don't know about the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the mornings you woke up with anxiety, the days you walked on eggshells trying not to trigger another explosion. They don't know about the version of you that bent over backward trying to make it work. They only know the version this person is telling them about, the version that left without warning, without care, without conscience, the version that destroyed everything and walked away laughing. They're asking why you took what wasn't yours, why you left this person with nothing, why you didn't help when they were struggling. And in their version of events, you're a thief, a user, someone who took advantage of vulnerability and discarded them when nothing was left to extract. But the reality, you left with only what was yours. You walked away from things that legally belonged to you because the fight wasn't worth your peace. You offered help that got refused. You tried to leave things amicably, but got met with rage. But none of that is being told. They're asking why you turned others against this person, why you spread rumors, why you poisoned people's perception before they could tell their side. In their story, you're running a smear campaign, you're manipulating mutual connections, you're playing victim while actually being the villain, but you haven't said anything. You've been silent, you've been private, you've been focused on healing, not destroying. The irony that the person accusing you is doing exactly what they claim you did is rich, but this community can't see it because they're looking in the wrong direction. They're asking why you seem so happy now, why you're thriving, why you're succeeding. In their twisted logic, your peace is proof of your guilt, because if you really cared, if you really had a heart, you'd be suffering too. You'd be drowning in regret. You'd be begging for forgiveness. Your happiness offends them. Your success insults them. Your peace is evidence to them that you must be heartless, because how else could you move on so quickly from someone you allegedly destroyed? But what they're missing is this. You're not happy because you destroyed someone. You're happy because you escaped something that was destroying you. You're not thriving because you're heartless. You're thriving because you finally chose yourself. You're not at peace because you don't care. You're at peace because you're finally free. They're being spiritually watched, not directly monitored by human eyes, but observed by higher forces. They know on some level that they're being seen, that their mask is slipping, that the truth is going to emerge. They derived satisfaction from placing burdens on you when you were connected. They enjoyed making things hard for you, watching you struggle, keeping you down. But now you're free, and your freedom is a mirror showing them exactly what they are. They're monitoring your success. They're tracking your moves. They're keeping tabs on your progress. And every win you have feels like a personal attack to them. Every moment of peace you experience reminds them of the chaos they live in. Every step forward you take highlights how stuck they are. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. But something is about to happen that they don't see coming. Legal matters. Something official is about to make you very aware of who this person really is. Maybe information will come to light. Maybe documentation will surface. Maybe witnesses will finally speak up. Whatever it is, clarity is coming, and they know it. On some unconscious level, they're aware that their time playing victim is running out. That's why their attacks are getting more desperate, more frantic, more intense, because they can feel the tower moment approaching, the moment when everything they've built on lies comes crashing down. This community isn't just angry because they believe lies about you. They're angry because your existence threatens their entire worldview. You represent something they're afraid to acknowledge, the possibility that they've been wrong, the chance that they've been manipulated, the reality that the person they're defending might not deserve their defense. If you're actually innocent, then they've been complicit in attacking an innocent person. If you're actually the one who was wronged, then they've been supporting an abuser. If you're actually telling the truth, then they've been spreading lies, and that's terrifying to face. So they double down, they get angrier, they demand more answers, because the alternative is facing their own complicity, and most people would rather be wrong and certain than right and uncertain. You were in a dynamic that started out looking like love, like friendship, like partnership, like family. It looked healthy on the surface, functional, normal, maybe even good, and you believed in it for a while. You invested, you committed, you showed up fully, but underneath, things were deteriorating. This person was controlling in ways that seemed small at first. They had opinions about who you spent time with, what you wore, how you talked, what you posted, who you followed, where you went. It seemed like they just cared, like they just wanted what was best for you. But the control tightened. Their opinions became demands, their suggestions became rules, and if you pushed back, if you questioned, if you resisted, there were consequences, not always obvious ones, sometimes just coldness, distance, the silent treatment, passive aggression that made you feel crazy for even noticing. You started walking on eggshells. You began monitoring your own behavior to avoid triggering their moods. You apologized for things you didn't do just to keep the peace. You made yourself smaller and quieter and less present just to avoid conflict. And you didn't even realize it was happening until you were deep in it. This person was draining you, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially. Every interaction left you feeling exhausted, confused, questioning your own perception of reality. They'd say one thing and do another. They'd make promises they never kept. They'd create problems and then blame you for the chaos. And when you tried to address it, when you tried to have honest conversations, they'd flip it. Suddenly you were the problem. You were too sensitive, too demanding, too needy, too critical. You expected too much. You didn't appreciate what you had. You were making them feel attacked when they were just being themselves. The gaslighting was constant. The manipulation was sophisticated. And you started to believe maybe you were the problem. Maybe you were asking for too much. Maybe you needed to be more understanding, more patient, more giving. So you tried harder. You gave more. You lowered your standards. You accepted less. You convinced yourself that this was just what real relationships required: sacrifice, compromise, unconditional acceptance. But it wasn't compromise. It was you losing yourself piece by piece while this person remained exactly the same. It wasn't sacrifice. It was you being used while they took and took and took, without ever giving back. It wasn't unconditional love. It was conditional abuse based on your willingness to shrink. And then something shifted. Maybe you had a moment of clarity. Maybe someone outside the situation showed you a different perspective. Maybe you just got tired, but you started to wake up. You started to see the patterns. You started to recognize the manipulation for what it was. And you tried to set boundaries. Reasonable ones. Necessary ones. Boundaries that any healthy person would respect. But this person lost their mind, because boundaries meant loss of control, and loss of control was unacceptable to them. They raged, they cried, they threatened, they guilt-tripped, they love-bombed, they did everything they could to pull you back into compliance. And when none of that worked, when you held firm, when you refused to back down, they changed tactics. They went to other people. They started planting seeds. They made comments that seemed innocent, but were actually laying groundwork for the smear campaign to come. They were preparing their narrative while you were still trying to salvage the relationship. And when you finally left, when you finally chose yourself, when you finally walked away for good, they unleashed everything. The rage that had been building came out in full force, not at you directly, although there was probably some of that too, but at your reputation, your character, your name, They told everyone who would listen that you were the abuser, you were the manipulator, you were the one who destroyed everything, and because they'd been laying groundwork, because they'd been planting seeds, because they'd been building their victim narrative, people believed it. You were blindsided. You thought when you left it would be over. You thought you could just heal and move on. You didn't realize they were building a case against you. You didn't know they were gathering an army. You didn't expect them to wage war on your reputation. Something is coming that's going to change everything. A new opportunity, a fresh start, something that's going to elevate you beyond anything you've experienced before. And this community, they're going to try to sabotage it. They're going to reach out to whoever is offering you this opportunity to poison the well. They're going to try to convince them you're dangerous, untrustworthy, someone who destroys everything you touch. But it's not going to work, because what's meant for you is divinely protected. What's aligned with your purpose can't be blocked by people operating from ego and fear. The bindings that were supposed to hold you back are falling off. You're getting independence. Financial freedom is arriving. You're getting the choice of all options, not just limited selection. Everything you've been working toward is manifesting. And this person, they're hanging on to burdens they can't put down. They're heavy with consequences they can't escape. They're stuck in patterns they can't break. While you're rising into freedom, they can't comprehend. They're going to spread information to people in your new circles before you even get there. They might create fake accounts to leave negative reviews or comments. They're going to reach out to whoever is giving you this opportunity with concerned trolling, with fake worry about your character, with fabricated warnings about your past behavior. They're going to position it as if they're just trying to help, just trying to protect innocent people from making the mistake of trusting you, just trying to prevent others from getting hurt the way they allegedly were hurt. It's going to sound noble, caring, responsible, but the people who are meant to work with you, they're going to see through it. They're going to recognize the patterns of someone trying to control your narrative. They're going to wonder why a group of strangers is so invested in preventing your success. They're going to question the motives behind the warnings, and instead of turning against you, they're going to be more curious about you, more interested in your actual character, more willing to give you a chance to show who you really are, because wise people know that anyone worth destroying must be worth knowing. This community doesn't understand that their attacks are actually building your credibility. Every failed attempt to sabotage you makes you look stronger. Every lie that gets exposed makes them look weaker. Every time they come at you and you remain standing makes you look more legitimate. They think they're destroying you, but they're actually building a testimony for you. They're creating evidence of your resilience. They're demonstrating your ability to thrive under pressure, and all of that is going to serve you in ways they can't imagine. You walked away from something that would have destroyed you. You didn't just dodge a bullet, you dodged an entire arsenal. That relationship, whatever form it took, would have kept you small, stuck, silent, trapped in your own thoughts with no one to communicate with because they weren't listening. But you got out, and the moment you did, you started climbing, ascending, becoming, and with each step up, the noise below got quieter. The opinions of people who don't know you became less relevant. The accusations of someone desperate to keep you down became transparent. This person is a bully, but they're also deeply insecure, and their insecurity is about to be their downfall, because you can't build a kingdom on lies forever. Eventually the foundation crumbles, the truth comes out, the mask falls off, and when it does, this community that's so angry at you is going to feel embarrassed, manipulated, used. Some of them will apologize, some will just disappear, some will double down because admitting they were wrong is too painful, but you'll be somewhere else entirely, so far ahead that their drama is just background noise from a life you no longer live. News is coming, information that's going to confirm everything you already knew in your spirit. This person is drowning in debt, bad decisions, consequences they can't escape, and they're making you out to be the villain to explain away the destruction they created themselves. Their family created this monster by enabling them, by giving them everything without requiring accountability, by believing every story without demanding proof. And now they're stuck cleaning up a mess that keeps getting bigger because the person creating it refuses to change. But that's not your problem. That's not your responsibility. That's not your burden to carry. You're climbing, that's all that matters. You're being shown the way. You're walking a path that's protected, guided, blessed, and nothing they do can stop what's already been written in the spiritual realm. While they've been focused on destroying you, you've been building an empire, not the kind built on other people's pain, not the kind requiring you to step on others, the kind built on alignment, purpose, divine orchestration. You're about to experience success at a level that's going to shock even you. Financial abundance is coming, not just enough, more than enough, the kind that gives you options, freedom, the ability to move how you want, when you want, with who you want. You're no longer dependent on anyone for your security or validation or worth. And this person who's been watching you, they're going to have a front row seat to your elevation. They're going to watch you win, watch you thrive, watch you become everything they said you'd never be, and it's going to eat them alive. This community they've gathered, they're starting to see cracks in the story, little inconsistencies, moments where the narrative doesn't quite add up, times when this person's rage doesn't match someone who's supposedly healing, instances where their behavior contradicts their supposed spiritual growth, and they're questioning, not out loud yet, not openly, but privately, in their own minds, in their own hearts. They're starting to wonder if maybe they got it wrong, if maybe they were manipulated, if maybe you weren't the villain after all. That doubt is the beginning of their awakening, and you don't need to be there for it. You don't need to say, "I told you so." You don't need to rub it in their faces, because you're not operating from ego, you're operating from power, and powerful people don't need validation from those who doubted them. Your life becomes the testimony, your peace becomes the proof, your success becomes the evidence, and everyone who tried to tear you down gets to watch you rise, and watch how the universe handles everyone who tried to stop you. This community wants truth. Here it is. You chose yourself, and that choice set you free. Everything else is just noise from people who are still in prison, angry that you found the key. Now watch what happens next. Watch how the universe handles your enemies. Watch how divine justice unfolds without you lifting a finger. Watch how your continued success becomes the evidence that speaks louder than any defense you could offer. You're not the beast. You never were. You're the one who saw through the real monster and had the courage to walk away, and that makes you unstoppable. The poisoned gossip, it's already losing power. The angry community, they're already starting to question. The person spreading lies, they're already being exposed by their own behavior. And you're already free, already rising, already becoming everything they said you'd never be. That's not just victory, that's domination. That's what happens when a chosen one stops playing small and steps into the full magnitude of their divine assignment. The story that started with someone trying to destroy you ends with you absolutely untouchable, protected by forces they can't fight, blessed by powers they can't comprehend, elevated to heights they can't reach. So when this community comes demanding answers, when they want explanations for why you did what you did, when they're standing there with their accusations and their anger and their blind loyalty to a liar, remember this: you don't owe them anything, not your story, not your pain, not your defense, not your time, not your energy, not your peace. You owe yourself forward movement, continued elevation, unwavering commitment to your path, and the strength to keep walking even when people are screaming at you to stop, because you know something they don't. This isn't about them. This was never about them. This is about you remembering who you are, reclaiming your power, rising into your purpose, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop a chosen one who's locked in on their destiny. Your success is guaranteed, not because life is fair, but because you chose alignment over everything else, and alignment always wins. So let them be angry, let them demand answers, let them believe whatever stories they need to believe. Their perception of you has no power over your reality. Your reality is this: you're free, you're powerful, you're protected, you're rising, and you're about to show everyone who doubted you exactly what happens when a chosen one stops apologizing and starts dominating. Now go show them what a chosen one really looks like when they stop playing small and step fully into their divine assignment. Go show them what happens when you choose yourself without apology. Go show them what real power looks like when it's aligned with purpose. The community wanted to know what happened and why you did it. Here's your answer. You woke up, you saw clearly, you chose freedom, and you never looked back. That's not a crime, that's liberation, and your liberation is threatening everyone who's still in chains. Let them rage, let them plot, let them gather their armies. None of it matters, because you're already gone, already elevated, already operating on a frequency they can't access. This is your story, and it doesn't end with you begging for forgiveness from people who should be apologizing to you. It ends with you standing in power so absolute that their lies sound like whispers in a hurricane. You're the storm now, not the victim of one. And storms don't apologize for their power. They just move with certainty and watch everything not rooted in truth get swept away. That's you. That's your energy. That's your future. Unstoppable, unmovable, undeniable, untouchable. Welcome to your victory, chosen one. You earned every